and welcome to CopBlock Radio Show live on FPRN. It's so awesome to be in our new home in our new time slot. And if you're wondering where Line of Fire is tonight, well, they've moved to Saturday nights at 6 p.m. So we're taking over that time slot now. So we'll be on Wednesday nights at 9:30 p.m. from now on. So if you haven't caught up on the lineup changes here at FPRN, the TGB report is moved to 4:30 p.m. on Wednesday, and Silence's Compliance is at 7, and now we're at 9:30. So again, Line of Fire has moved to Saturdays at 6 p.m. So go check them out on Saturday. My name's Eric, and with me tonight I have Adam, and finally we have our other co-host Scott. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you? Thanks.
Doing great. Thanks, Eric.
So I guess now that we have our first episode on FPRN and we've kind of changed up formats a little bit and we've added another person, it's probably time to go over kind of what CopBlock is and ways people go about it, and I guess the general mission of what CopBlock is. So, Adam, you want to take that away?
Yeah, basically. So we go over basically CopBlock 101. Basically, what you would do if you were going to go out and go cop blocking. Basically, first off, in the list of things to do when going out cop blocking is number one, be prepared. Know that it could turn ugly. You could be arrested. But a lot of times if you handle the situation properly and respectfully, that doesn't happen. But sometimes it does. Basically, first step of being prepared is going to be notifying someone else that you're going to go out and do this, or take a group with you. It can be very dangerous to go out by yourself and be disappeared by Johnny Law and have no one know where you went. So important to tell others that you are going out and doing this, and or bring a group with you, and split into two groups. It's always great to have a backup group in the far beyond, recording the whole entire situation if things do get ugly. When you're doing this, make sure you have also backup cameras. I don't know how many times we've all seen videos of the police snatching cameras or throwing them on the ground and breaking them and not being able to prove what had happened. So a backup camera or your backup group with a camera is a great, great thing to have. You got anything on that, Eric or Scott?
I was just going to say, why don't you, explain a little bit of what cop blocking is, what you're doing, and what you're trying to accomplish through that.
All right. So basically, cop blocking is to go out and record interactions with the police, hold them accountable to the standard that they should be held at, which is basically the same as you or I, other than the fact that they have a shiny tin badge and a gun. But most of us can legally walk out with guns also, in that sense. But basically, the goal is to go out and to record your friendly neighborhood police officer and the interactions that they are doing, to make sure that they are following the law and not violating yours or other people's rights. Got any more on that?
No, that pretty much covers it for me. It just sounds like you're getting out there and you're trying to make sure that the watchmen are being watched. And I know that it can be very difficult. And I think that one of the best things that you pointed out there was tell somebody ahead of time, and to travel in groups, because anybody who's done the people that are listening to the show right now are pretty familiar. But for those new folks that haven't done something like this, you're kind of putting yourself out there on a limb, and you're exposing yourself to risk. But I know that later on, whenever we hear from Pete Eyre and Antonio Bueller, these guys are going to talk about some of their experiences, and they've had some good and some not so good, unfortunately, where they got the handy dandy wrist warmers. But I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there, man.
Oh, yeah. So on top of that, on the list here would be knowing your rights. Basically, if you're going to go out and do this, know your state rights. to your state, your laws in your state in the sense of recording. I know it's been found in what was it, the Supreme Court of Appeals, that it is First Amendment constitutional right to record in public. But other than that, knowing your state statutes or RCW codes is very great and informative to know if the cop questions what you're doing, you can state those. It makes you look more educated and that you know what you're doing and that they can't abuse you as easily and that you will not cower to them.
Yeah, that decision that you were talking about is the Glick decision out of Massachusetts, and really what that was doing is just reaffirming the right of the individual as essentially being a member of the press at all times. So, as far as that definitely covers the First Circuit, but it's pretty much covers the entire United States. And recently, I believe it was Illinois, they had a law that it was illegal to film police, but that recently got struck down as being unconstitutional for that state. So,
yeah, no, that was great that got struck down, just to reaffirm the fact that we have the right to record individuals with badges.
Yeah. One thing that I wanted to touch on was, while you're out there filming, a really good idea, and I know that a lot of folks do it. There's apps out there like Ustream, anything that you can live stream to the internet or get it out there to where people can follow you or see that, hey, this guy's out and he's with a group and they're cop blocking. That there's always that potential where they could kidnap you and put you in a cage unjustly, and you want to have that evidence out there so someone somewhere or someday whenever you get to sit down and now you have this evidence, because everybody knows that they're deleting things off of cell phones and they're smashing cameras like you had said before. But one thing is to get it, stream everything if you can, even if it's just backup audio, stream that, and then it's kind of hard, but if you can, if you're going out and you're partaking this activity, which is obviously the three of us fully support this, and we think that it's the right direction to be headed. One thing that you'll want to also think about is either getting something like I think it's called Shield Mutual, which is who Adam Kokesh was using. They're like they're going to help you as an activist if you are kidnapped and caged. And I think that's like $50 a month, or get a lawyer on retainer. Go out there and find a lawyer that's going to support you. And I know in my area, there's an attorney that supports accountability and transparency, and just get him on retainer. Give him some money right now, and it's kind of like an investment in your future, because you could spend one day in jail, or you could spend a week in a cage until you get someone to public defender, whatever it's going to be. So it's kind of worth it. It's time is money, and I'd rather spend my time outside fighting than inside.
Yeah, and as far as the streaming apps, right now, the one that I'm using is called Bambuser. It's BAMBUSER, and I like that app because it saves a local copy to your phone, and if you don't have an internet connection at the time that you're recording, it will hold it, and as soon as it finds internet connection, it will upload it to the website. So it might not be exactly live streaming, but it will get it up there as soon as possible. And you can also set it so it'll post to your Facebook page as soon as the upload, or as soon as the broadcast begins. But definitely when it's done, it posts directly to your Facebook page. So if something does happen, it's immediately on your Facebook page, and people know that you recorded this particular video.
Yeah, I mean, I've been using Ustream, and I know people have had issues with it, and it sounds like this Bambuser is probably a better direction to head, and get your friends involved, even if it's just say, hey, follow me, and if you see that I'm streaming and you don't hear from me for a day or two, something bad happened, and that way people at least know.
No, yeah, you make a good point. And also in the on the live chat on the FPRN site, Tony Bones put up a link to the copblock.org/apps page that has a list of multiple good apps on it for using apps like that record and live stream and save and run in the background, which is a great thing to do too. On top of that, when you're out recording the police, not only with the knowing your rights part, but the getting the names of the individuals you are interacting with, the police officer's name and badge number. If you can't get them to state it, at least try to zoom in on the badge or name tag on their uniform. Always great to have that documentation so there's no conflict of which officer did what. Also, when interacting with the police officers, I think most of us know that they will try to get you to admit things constantly and know their way around getting you to talk and or basically admit guilt to anything they come up with. um, Best defense on that is to ask if you are being detained, and if you are not, and they answer the fact that you are not, ask if you are free to go and walk away. Remove yourself from the situation. Don't let them sit there and harass you and get information from you, because that is part of their job, and then their training is to get as much information about you and the individual that you are as they can, so they can use that against you in a court of
And
law.
a lot of the times you'll see videos of that where people ask if they're being detained, and the police officer will avoid answering the question. So they'll just continue asking, what's your name? What's your name? What's your name? And you ask, am I being detained? And they just keep asking what their name is and never actually answering the question to if you're being detained. So just know that that could happen. So it's always kind of the ask the two main questions: am I free to go, and am I being detained? And those two questions are mutually exclusive. So if the answer is yes to one, then it's no to the other, and it can't be both yes or both no. So
Yeah, no, you make a good point there. I've seen many videos of that where they will beat around the question and try to ignore the fact that you asked that question if you're being detained or free to go. And I've seen a lot of them where they'll just keep asking your name, and I've seen some good videos of individuals repetitively asking, "Am I being detained? Am I free to go?" And the cop will not answer, and they just slowly step back and remove themselves in a very slow manner, not to just run away, but just slowly back away from the officer, and the officer eventually gives up.
Yeah,
So that, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish your point.
So that seems like a good maneuver in a sense, is to just slowly try to remove yourself from the situation if they will not respond. And as long as while you're removing yourself from that situation, it looks as if the officer is accepting the fact that you're walking away. Obviously, if he keeps approaching you and keeps coming after you, you probably shouldn't try to run off, because they're going to say you were running from them, and who knows what'll happen.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the interactions like we're talking about are, most of those seem to me like it's, someone's either, out openly carrying a firearm or something along those lines. A lot of times they're just going to tell you to step back. You have to look into it in your area, and I'm not sure if it's different for different states across the country. But they're going to tell you that you're interfering with a police investigation or something like that. Because it's not like whenever you're out and you're with a group, you're not necessarily going to be the ones that are interacting with the police right away. You're going to kind of walk up, or I know the guys up in New Hampshire have radios and they say, hey, this person's pulled over, or whatever's going on. So a lot of times they're going to try to tell you that you're interfering and you need to get back, and you need to know what the law is, because they're going to tell you have to go to the other side of the street, or they're going to bring more of their friends in funny costumes and badges, because it just seems like they're like cockroaches. Where you see one, there's like 100 hiding in the closet. But you have to know specifically what you can and can't do in relations to an active police interaction with someone else that you're kind of like a third party essentially. So a lot of times they're going to tell you to stop interfering or get back or stop recording, but you have to be very familiar with that stuff before you go out, because if you're not familiar, you're not going to really do anybody a service.
And this is type of stuff that it's good to be familiar with anyways, for not even when you're going out on purpose to do this type of thing. It's this type of stuff happens when you are just out and about going about your daily life, and then something happens in front of you, and it would be helpful if there was a video recording of it as an objective record of what happened. I mean, we've seen just in the past couple of weeks quite a few police beatings that were caught by somebody who had a cell phone, and it's good to if we have more people out there who would immediately go to their cell phone and knew um, these type of rules and all that jazz, that we might have some better insight of what happened of particular events, and instead of just kind of the way back video or really really late into the incident or at the end of the incident type of video where it would be really helpful to have the entire incident.
Yeah, and one thing, you have to, anybody who's ever had any interaction with the police, they're going to ask if they can search your car, search your person, while you're recording, they're going to try to get you to stop because they don't want to be held accountable. And you just say, hey, if you have nothing to hide, you should want this too. That way there's an objective record. And I know that there's been times where some folks that I know have been pulled over and weren't recording, and now the police they're kind of smartening up, and they walk up and they tell you this conversation is being audio and video recorded, and whenever something happens, and if you're not doing the same thing, and you want to file a complaint or whatever it is, and you Freedom of Information Act, yeah, our cameras don't work all the time, and I know it's happened. I know for facts. I know I have family members who this has happened to, so you can't just rely on the fact that they're going to record and you can just get that information from them.
Yeah, we were just talked about a couple weeks ago. There was a incident, I believe it was in Seattle, where a guy got shot, and there were 8 police cameras present, but none of them were recording for some reason. So, and then actually that same week, we then discussed that through an audit, they found that over 100,000 dash cam videos were missing from the archives of that particular police department. So it's good to have your independent record and not rely on the cops actually taking record of the situation through video or audio.
Speaking of taking record, I know a lot of us have seen a lot of these news articles coming out of the police taking when something happens, especially we've seen the last couple of weeks of police brutality where they've beaten someone to death, and the officers are going around and collecting cameras from everyone that recorded the situation and just taking these as evidence. That 9 times out of 10 they legally actually can't do that and can't take your property for recording the incident that happened. And I know most people are instantly cowering down and just handing over their phones and letting the police delete these items, which is a huge no-no in my opinion. Don't give it up. Don't let them have it. Don't let them delete it. Keep it and use it to show transparency.
Yeah, and even on top of that, if for some reason it does get taken and they do delete the footage, the first thing you should do is take like the memory card out of the camera so you don't accidentally start recording stuff on it. And there's a lot of software out there that will recover that type of stuff, because when you're deleting a file, what you're really doing is just deleting a short address. You're not actually deleting all the information. So there's lots of programs that can recover all that information back again. And that's what happened to our friend Carlos Miller we talked to a couple weeks ago. The police took his camera. They deleted his video. Of course, they didn't re-record any video over it. So he brought the card home, applied the software to it, and got the entire video back that showed what actually happened and not what they wrote down that said that happened.
Yeah, I think that a similar thing happened to, we can maybe ask Pete later, with Pete and Ademo, whenever they were doing the Motorhome Diaries or whenever they were out on Marv. And I think that they had a similar thing where, they were bullied by some guys in funny costumes, and they took their cameras and deleted them, and then they had some friends that, used this software. Now, this was a couple of years ago, but, it happens a lot more often than people think.
Yeah, and now there's There are some video cameras that you can connect to your phone via Wi-Fi, and basically you can dump the feed onto your phone and save it there. So if they take your camera, it's actually on your phone. And there's SD cards that are mini Wi-Fi transmitters. So even if you don't have one of those, you can have this card and it creates this mini Wi-Fi as well.
Yeah, that's the one thing that you want to make sure, and it seems like so silly, but you have to get in the practice of locking everything. Your phone should have a lock on it with a passcode, so the cops can't just rifle through it whenever you're not looking. Even if you're traveling, you have to get out. Whenever you get out of the car, lock your doors. If they're telling you to get out for some reason, these are the things that you can do that are so small that people just forget because it's nerve wracking to be interacting with someone who's possibly a violent person, because if you're listening to this radio show that police can be violent, and they use violence to extort money from people, and you have to do everything you can, and silly little things like locking your doors. Get out and lock your doors and just tell, oh well, I always do. That's a force of habit. But that's the kind of stuff whenever you're not looking and they're going to just start going through your property, going through your phone, going through your vehicle, and just tell them, like, I don't consent to searches, and I don't consent to seizures of my property. You have to just exercise your rights. As soon as you start doing that, that's when they know you're not screwing around. You're not going to deal with it. You're going to make them. You're going to hold their feet to the fire.
Yeah, and one of the things that I like to do, say if you go to a checkpoint of some sort and you're going to park your car and walk to where the event is taking place, I like to leave my ID and wallet, because if you have a credit card that has your name on it, I leave all that stuff behind in my car, because since I'm not driving a car, I don't need to have a license on me, and you're not required to have photo ID on you at all times if you're just walking around. So I leave my wallet and stuff in the car, and I also take the key to the car off the key ring and leave the remote for the car alarm in the car, so that if they had the remote, they couldn't find my car if they just had the key. Just something I like to do.
No, that's actually a really good practice to think about it. I know that some people, whenever they get that they're going through and they're getting processed, they don't want anything that can be, more helpful to them, because anything they'll tell you, anything you can say can and will be held against you in a court of law. They don't tell you, well, we're going to do this to help you out, so it goes better. So, the less property that you have on you that's going to identify you, and if you haven't done anything wrong, you have no obligation to identify yourself. It's none of their business. If you're not breaking any laws, and they're going to tell you, well, what's your first name? You can call me sir. That's sir works for me.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea there, Eric. I love that with the removing the key fob or alarm off of there. Never even thought of that one. It's a great one. Also, another good point I wanted to make up real quick was the fact of when you're going out and you record these individuals, whether or not anything bad happens or so-called good video, I like to encourage people to publish it anyway. Put it on the internet, put it on YouTube. Either way, because then it's documentation. It shows law enforcement that we're going to put their faces out there. We're going to record them, whether or not an incident happened or not. And then even then, I know there's many individuals affiliated with other cop block groups that are all about getting the faces and names of these police officers to keep on record. So if an incident does happen and nobody knows the officer's name, there's video already of this officer and their face and their badge, and we already know who they are. So that's another great point to make there, is to always put the video out, whether or not it's a crappy video or not. We want to see them. Everybody else wants to see them. And it shows that people are out and actively doing this.
Yeah, I just saw actually a demo, I believe it was a demo, who posted that they had just pointed out that they found a video from like 4 or 5 months ago where they didn't know who this individual was because it wasn't important at the time, and it was actually the FBI agent Phil Christiana. Was it? I think it's Christiana. He he's the FBI agent who was part of the sting for Rich Paul, but they didn't know who this guy was at the time, and he was not a prominent person in the video. But somebody pointed out that, hey, 5 months ago, there's this video, and Phil Cristiano is in there. So it's useful to have all this video where you think it might be useless, that it might come in handy later because you may identify the person in the future, and then you can go back and see, hey, wait a minute, this same person was at this event, and now we have an ID on this particular person.
Yeah, one thing that with that, keeping these records, I know that sometimes they're going to tell you that it's an officer safety issue of where you can't record them because they do part-time undercover work, and you have to you just have to know your rights and know that that's not your problem. That if they do undercover police work, they shouldn't be in public in a police uniform. That there's no expectation of privacy for an officer like that out in public. And I've seen several videos where well, you can't video us because he does undercover work, and what if a bad guy sees this? And it's like it doesn't matter. That there's no expectation of privacy for somebody who gets paid through stolen money.
Yeah, so you have any last points on Cop Block 101?
I guess the last piece I would be is be respectful. Don't just be cocky individual and spart off at the police officer. There's no reason to escalate the situation any more than it already is, if it already is. Being kind, respectful, polite words. Obviously, yes, freedom of speech, you can cuss them out if you want, but it's probably not going to help the situation at all. So basically keep that in mind. When dealing with them, try to talk respectfully, know your rights, and protect yourself. That'd be all I have.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much where I'm at. Be respectful, because the more respectful you are, because you already know and they know it's on video, and if you're going to be respectful and they're just going to be some disrespectful jerk and they're going to push you around and they're going to be violent, it's not going to help your case if you're not acting professional and respectful towards them. If they're the aggressors, it's going to make it so much easier to convince people into showing, like, look, this person is wrong. They should not be doing what they're doing. And I'm just a person out in the public, so that's that would be the last bit of advice I got.
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the issues that get a lot of people in trouble is the keeping your mouth shut and not running off, because I know that tends to be what triggers a lot of these people getting arrested, is yelling and screaming and swearing and being disrespectful, and then they just get you on one of the catch-alls of disorderly conduct, and of course then they're going to get resisting arrest for whatever reason. But yeah, it's be respectful, and you want to look like you want to make sure you don't look like you're in the wrong. That's kind of the biggest thing. Is that it?
Yeah, man. I think that pretty much covers it. So, yeah, I'm definitely. I think I'm happy.
So I think the overall goal, as far as Cop Block in general, is just police accountability and, like you said earlier, watching the watchers and getting that independent, objective record that can be looked upon after the fact if something does happen and it needs to be brought to light in the future, and not relied upon the police to take that record. So I think we gotta head to break now, and stick with us after the break. We will have Garrett Ian from Robin Hood of Keene. So you're listening to Cop Block Radio on FPRN.
In 1997, a high school shooting was stopped by a vice principal with a gun. In 1998, a middle school shooting was ended by a neighbor with a gun. In 2002, a terrorist attack was stopped by a school guard and a teacher with a gun. After September 11th, pilots began carrying guns to protect their passengers. Let's give our schools and teachers the same option. Sign the petition at defendschools.com.
Hi, I'm Trevor Moore. Due to the recent revelations that in order to fight terrorism, the NSA has been using a secret court order to spy on every single Verizon and AT&T customer, Americans have become outraged and concerned about their rights to privacy. But along with that concern comes a feeling of hopelessness. I mean, what can we do? Vote in new leaders? Well, the problem is that during an election, each candidate pretends to not be an asshole. Then when they get the job, they reveal that they've actually been a complete asshole this entire time. No, elections are of no use. The only way to fight back against our country's excessive wiretapping and data mining is to make it irrelevant. That's why we're launching Operation Everyone Talk Like a Terrorist all the time. If we all openly discuss terrorist plots in each of our phone conversations, then eavesdropping on those phone conversations becomes pointless. It's simple. We just need to work it into our daily vernacular. For example, instead of saying, "I love you," you could describe a terror attack. The larger the scale, the more you love the person.
Hi, Mom. I just got out of school. Can you pick me up?
I'll be there in 15 minutes. I'm gonna use a truck bomb to blow up the Brooklyn Bridge.
I'm mailing anthrax to Piers to Morgan.
Or nonsense about God's will being great could mean affirmative.
Hey man, they have a 7:30 show, and do you think you can make it in time?
God is merciful and his love is unchanging. Did you already get me a ticket?
And those are just a few examples. You can make up your own. Have fun with it. But it's time for us to stand up and protect our rights. Because those assholes aren't going to.
Do you have a group or organization founded on the principles of personal liberty, health freedom, or accountable government? We invite you to check out Same Side Entertainment. Get connected with leaders in the liberty movement like Tom Woods, Kevin Gutzman, Jack Hunter, Robert Scott Bell, Michael Scheuer, and many more. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and our website at www.samesideentertainment.com. Again, that's www.samesideentertainment.com. Same Side Entertainment, connecting you with the education and resources you need.
Hello, fellow patriots. This is Joseph Nazari, Director of Training Operations with Line of Fire LLC, Professional Firearms Training Group, located in Las Vegas, Nevada. The fact that you're listening to this show is evidence to me that you are a true patriot and you do value your freedoms. As all patriots know, with freedom comes responsibility, and if you own a firearm, training should be an integral part of your personal defense profile. If you're considering quality firearms training, Line of Fire LLC should be your first choice. We teach all types of firearms training for all types of individuals, from the novice to the most advanced shooters. At Line of Fire LLC, we have a course for you. Please feel free to call us today at 702-242-8288. We look forward to speaking with you soon. Once again, that's Line of Fire LLC, 702-242-8288.
You have reached the 911 emergency service. All operators are busy.
Oh God, please help me. He's got a knife.
You have reached the 911 emergency service. All operators are busy. Please stay on the line for the next available emergency operator. You have reached the 911 emergency service. All operators are busy. Please stay on.
911 operator, what's your emergency, please? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Last year in the United States, thousands and thousands of 911 calls went unanswered. And if you call from a cell phone, there's no way to pinpoint where you are. Yet politicians like Dianne Feinstein call for more gun control. We have one question. Why do these politicians have armed bodyguards? Can't they just call 911?
And welcome back to the Cop Block Radio Show, live on FPRN and hopefully syndicated across the internet. We'll see. You're listening to the June 12th episode. tonight I have with me Adam and Scott. And hopefully we have our guest with us. Do we have Ian? Not Ian. We have Garrett Ian. Do we have him with us?
Am I here?
There you
are.
are.
Sounds like you're here.
Cool.
So I wanted to reach out to you because you guys were going to have your trial that didn't seem to be a whole lot of a trial yesterday. So for those who aren't familiar with what you guys are doing in Keene, you want to talk about what you're doing?
Well, certainly. Yesterday was supposed to be a preliminary hearing on a petition to prevent myself and 5 others from being able to be within 50 feet of a parking enforcer in Keene, New Hampshire. And what was supposed to be a preliminary hearing turned into a hearing on a motion to dismiss, and no ruling was had at that hearing. So from that angle, it was a bit of a success. But anyway, myself and many others beyond the 6 included, in fact, one of the people is not really involved in Robin Hood and who's been named in the suit. We've been going out since about the beginning of the new year and filling parking meters that are expired in Keene, New Hampshire about every day. And we've prevented the city from issuing thousands of tickets at this point.
Last I heard is somewhere you've handed out over 6,000 cards.
Yes. That doesn't necessarily mean that we've saved 6,000 people from tickets, but it does mean that somewhere in that number that we've prevented tickets from being issued. And beyond just the $5 ticket that people get, if you don't pay the ticket within, I believe it's 14 days and then 30 days, the amount of the ticket continues to double until a $5 ticket could turn into a $40 ticket at some point.
Why have you guys taken on this task to prevent people from getting tickets?
Well, we all have different motivations getting into this, and if you ask the city, they would say that we all do this with the intention of making the parking enforcers quit, which is what they're alleging in their lawsuit. But my personal motivation is that Robin Hooding is one of the ways in which you can actually prevent the state from using one of its enforcement mechanisms. You can prevent tickets from being issued if you just fill parking meters with loose change. Whereas with other things that the government does to people that victimizes them in some sort of way, you can't stop an arrest without being arrested yourself. You can have a camera nearby, which is sometimes a saving grace, but there's a less of a tangible result from anything but Robin Hooding from what I've seen. People know that they would have gotten tickets based on the scenario, and they can know that you have prevented them from getting that. So it provides a lot of positive feedback from the community. The only people that I have found that really don't like it are either bureaucrats or close personal friends of bureaucrats.
Yeah, so what kind of, I guess, conflict, for lack of a better word, have you encountered while out Robin Hooding?
There have been 2 physical encounters in which members of the community have attacked either myself or others that have been out, but that was less related to Robin Hooding as it was people having cameras. In fact, in one instance, cameras that weren't even on. Some people are still a little intimidated by that. So in addition to Robin Hooding, I also see the activity as a way of proliferating the idea that cameras and accountability mechanism are just a part of everyday life. And being out in the streets every day and filming my activities, I think helps proliferate that notion.
And you guys weren't the only ones out there with cameras, it seems.
Yes, occasionally somebody else may come and film us, whether it's the press or in one instance there was a friend of one of the parking enforcers unhappy with what he perceived us to be doing. I think his perception of what we were doing and what we were actually doing may have been a little different. But we always welcome people to come out and film us. In fact, early on, the parking enforcers did film us for a short period of time, at least 2 of them did, and we told them that we welcome that and we'd love to see their footage at some point. I've never seen them release it. At one point, the city of Keene, in fact, hired a former police officer to follow us around and film us as well. And that was, I believe, the start of their investigation into taking legal action. I thought they were trying to perhaps file criminal charges against us when they hired a police officer to follow us around. But it turned into a civil case, something that nobody involved in this has been involved with before, so it's a new experience for us.
So have you had access to that video that the city has taken?
Yes, my friend James recently acquired it through a 91A request. In fact, we haven't gotten much, and I still need to file a discovery with the city, but we haven't gotten much from the city as far as evidence that they plan to use against us in court for the civil trial. We did obtain the, I believe, approximately 40 hours that were shot by the former police officer. His name is Peter Thomas, and that footage, if anyone wants to see what Robin Hooding on a typical day is like, they can watch that footage over at Freeman TV Raw, the YouTube channel. And much of the footage that we shoot whenever we're out. And in a sense, I'd say that when he was out, I felt I needed to put on a bit of a show for him. I tried to, explain to him about Robin Hooding and the philosophy behind it. And it seems to fly in the face when you watch the videos of everything that the city claims that we're about. So I don't think that the city attorney did much to really prepare for this case, other than put together what he believed to be a solid case, which I think falls apart in the face of the facts.
So yesterday, was that supposed to be the end of the line, did they think, or did they know that it was going to be extended out to the length that it is?
Well, part of the basis of the city's lawsuit was that they required emergency powers in order to move forward, that this was a dire situation, and that they have no other adequate remedy at law to do anything about the situation that they're in. Only they failed to present what sort of damage is being done to them. They alleged many things about the individuals involved in Robin Hooding, that we bump into parking enforcers, that we harass parking enforcers, that we are constantly telling them to quit their jobs, which none of that has been my experience with Robin Hooding, being out myself or with others. But yesterday was supposed to be an emergency hearing in which it's determined whether or not a preliminary injunction will be filed. In the lawsuit, they ask for a preliminary injunction, and then they ask for a permanent injunction. The preliminary injunction is, we need this without being able to have a full hearing because it's so important. And clearly they did not get their preliminary injunction yesterday, and so now clearly the city will have to be pushing for the permanent injunction. The only thing that they could hope to get is if they actually do have a trial and a hearing and full evidentiary hearing in which there are witnesses brought out. The parking enforcers will be able to be cross-examined by myself and others. And so that's what should be coming up unless the motion to dismiss, which Ian Freeman has filed, is granted.
Yeah, so one of the questions that have come out of the chat, Dio is asking, how much a return on investment do you guys see? Do you see a lot of people paying it forward?
I believe after the city of Keene sued us and we got the international press coverage that we did, donations really did begin picking up quite a bit, I believe in the hundreds. Prior to that, it was a bit of a losing effort. However, we do have some people behind the scenes that really like what we're doing and want to see it continue to go, who have been providing us with the change. Otherwise, the donations, I would say that we've received mostly from the people of Keene, now more increasingly from across the country, across the internet. They were just about covering donations, the coin output per week. On a typical day, if I'm out for a few hours, I could spend anywhere between $8 and $12 in change. And we just recently began using dimes, and I'll usually carry, about $10 worth of dimes in my pocket if I go out.
So a dime can save a Keene resident or not even necessarily a resident, anybody who parks there, a $5 ticket, or increasing after. If they don't pay after a certain amount of time, it could be, how high did you say it was?
It could go up to $40 per ticket. It would only take three tickets to get your car towed if you don't pay them and you wait too long, because one ticket could go up to $40, and after $100 in tickets are accrued, that's when they begin towing cars. And that's something that's especially egregious, I find, that the Keene Police Department does through the parking enforcement is the towing of people's cars, because then there's also towing fees involved. It just immobilizes that person for the day. It's something I see as unnecessary just because somebody forgot to put some change in a meter.
Yeah, didn't you guys have some experience with somebody who got their car towed on them and got kind of stranded?
Yes, I haven't personally witnessed anything too major happen, but I know one of the other Robin Hooders was out one time, and a woman with a sick 5-year-old had her car towed and the car seat towed, and she lived in a different town. She had no way of getting back home. She was in tears and pleading with the parking enforcer not to have the car towed, but by then the tow truck was already there, and they were like, well, we can't call it off now, just doing our job. So that's one of the things that I feel as the parking enforcers, they probably don't feel good about doing that. But I know that it's one of the things that if we can help prevent from happening, all the better.
So who else is involved in this lawsuit from the city?
Well, the strange thing is that about a month before the lawsuit was filed, there was a story done by the local paper, the Keene Sentinel, about Robin Hood of Keene. And they didn't really get many quotes from us. They did talk to Ian Freeman a little bit, but that's, I believe, the last time the Sentinel has spoken to us in the numerous articles they've written. But they did quote the city manager extensively. And the city manager, who we've come to call Prince John, his name is John McLean, is quoted as saying that the Robin Hooders are harassing the parking enforcers. And none of the allegations were coming from the parking enforcers at that point. They were all coming from the city manager, who I've never once seen out on the streets while I've been Robin Hooding. So I found it strange that this one man was demonizing an entire group when he himself had never approached anyone in that group or inquired with us about anything. And it wasn't until the lawsuit was filed that the allegations of harassment were included in the affidavits of the parking enforcers. And I must say that in the affidavits there are some factual errors. If you read through them, you'll see how vague that the language is. It very rarely refers to any specific incidents. It just refers vaguely to incidents that everyone was involved in collectively. It doesn't name names or name dates or anything of that sort.
Yeah, it seemed I read through the complaint you had, and well, the complaint the city made, and the 3 affidavits seem to have a lot of the exact same language, like it was just copied and pasted right in there.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes, I found that to also be the case.
Yeah, it seems that the people who are making these affidavits just signed something and didn't actually write it on their own.
Yeah, I believe there was probably a format that they wanted the enforcers to follow. I'm sure this was, I mean, being as this is a legal matter undertaken by the city, I'm sure that the city's legal department is the one forwarding it the most, or at least saying, this is the way we need to present it, whether or not it's the most truthful and, the most honest way of going about it. Because, as was brought out in court yesterday, and the city attorney passionately objected to this coming out, was the fact that he's refused to negotiate with us up to this point. The things that he's claiming we've done, none of the people involved really appreciate that their names are associated with that sort of activity, the bully-like activity that they describe. So I came to him a few weeks ago and said, well, I think we'd all be willing to negotiate since none of us would engage in this activity, that we would agree not to engage in this activity. And he said he wasn't ready to negotiate yet. So the city's really trying their hand there, seeing what they can get, but I don't expect they'll be getting anything. I get a very good impression from this judge that he is looking at all aspects of the case, including the constitutional aspects, and that he doesn't want to make a decision that he knows is just going to be reversed once it's appealed.
So it sounds like they're going for the harassment angle, but is that the true motive, do you think?
Well, I don't think that's necessarily what's motivating them to file the case, but I do believe that they believe that's the best angle upon which to make a case. I do believe this is probably an economic retaliation on the part of the city. Robin Hood of Keene definitely has hurt them in the pocketbook, as far as they have this general fund of parking that they no longer have have all this revenue coming to, because they predict when they write out their budgets in the beginning of the year how the revenue is going to be divvied up. And so seeing a revenue stream that's not producing, I see why the city would be upset by that and not want these individual people, just a few people with dimes and nickels, to be able to make such a big impact upon their system.
I find that kind of weird that they would budget relying on fines to begin with.
Oh, well, I mean, if you think of it, all governments sort of do that with taxes, like property values and whatnot. Like, property values could go down. They never anticipate that to happen. They always want to charge more in taxes. So it's the nature of the beast.
Cool. Hey, Scott or Adam, you got any questions?
Yeah, yeah, Garrett. I think it was a video that I saw of yours. I just want to see if you could confirm it. There was a video, and I thought that it was you. It was of a trial that you were involved in, and you were sitting there, and it was a drug charge where they had, taken a plant that grows in the dirt out of your pocket, and you actually had, I think that you told the judge that you would like your property returned.
That wasn't myself. I believe that may have been Emperor Evan, a former Keeniac. I think he might now live up in Grafton. But yeah, that was an incident that occurred here in Keene. Somebody had a charge, a paraphernalia charge, and they did request their property back, which is pretty unique. That doesn't happen very often. I believe the judge unfortunately denied that request.
Yeah, it's. I couldn't remember if it was you. I was, sitting here thinking, I was like, that takes some balls. But you know what? They were absolutely right in requesting that their property be returned to them. And I think that the judge just kind of did the double take. Like, I can't believe that guy just said that he wanted this back. So, but it sounds like you guys are doing a great job up there, man. Thank you so much for coming on and talking with us.
Oh, for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks, Garrett. I much props out to you guys for what you guys are doing. It's awesome. I fully support what you guys are doing, and thanks for coming on the show, man.
Cool. Yeah, if anyone wants to check out more, you can go to freekeene.com. Also, I do a local cable access show called AKPF number 1, which is about the Aqua Keene parking force, and you can check that out at youtube.com/AquaKeene.
Yeah, that's pretty funny because it's obviously a ripoff of the Aqua. Gee, now I can't even say it because I've said Aqua Keene so much. Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and I like how you kind of set it to. I don't even know what you would call them tribute songs to the show. Is Garrett still there?
I totally play with the idea of intellectual property and mix things up in ways that they're probably not supposed to be, but
it's public access, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, you have anything else you want to add?
That's about it. Definitely stay tuned to Free Keene or the Facebook page Robin Hood of Keene, or Keene Robin Hood, I think, on Facebook, and check for updates. We're always putting out video and all sorts of great content for people to peruse.
Oh, have they set a date for the next time you'll see them?
We have 20 days to respond with a constitutional argument if we care to make one. That's not necessary. We could just use the arguments we've already made. I'm pretty confident in what I've submitted so far. And some point after that 20 days, a date will be set.
Cool. All right, yeah. So if everybody wants to keep up on what's going on, freekeene.com is definitely the place to go. And if you want to see any of the daily videos of Robin Hooding, you pretty much upload all of those to Freeman TV Raw on YouTube, right?
That's right. I think that's an important accountability aspect, is so many people will complain, you guys edit your videos, you cut out the harassment that's going on. That way I can just point to everything I was out for, I shot, and you can go see it at Freeman TV Raw.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Evan. I always call you Ian, but you're Garrett. Thanks, Garrett.
Thanks, guys. Peace.
So obviously they do that in Keene, New Hampshire, which is a much smaller town than where I live in Columbus. So doing it in Columbus would probably be next to impossible.
Yeah, you would make such an insignificant. I mean, I've been in downtown in some major cities, and a couple months ago I was in Philadelphia for an event, and everybody was kind of like lined up outside this one bar, and it was like in the morning, and there was a big fundraiser going on, and I sat there and I just watched like meter maid after meter maid after meter maid. It was almost like a parade, and these people were just out there scouring the streets to extort money from people who paid to put the street down there anyway. So it's in the big cities you're not going to make as big of a difference, but you're going to make waves in a smaller town like the guys up in Keene are doing. They're kicking some butt.
Yeah, so it sounds like we have Mark on the line. Mark, is you with us?
Mark, you there? Are you muted?
Uh-oh.
I guess not.
Well, I thought he was here, but
see, I'm actually in the studio and I can hear the producers.
I'm here.
Mark,
I'm here.
What's up, brother? How are you, Mark?
You guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep. What's up, Mark?
Well, I just wanted to welcome you guys to the network, for one.
Thanks.
And two, when you guys were talking earlier about stolen money, you triggered something that happened today. If I'm a little noisy, I'm celebrating my first Wednesday night off by cooking dinner. So my wife is driving in Texas, and she gets pulled over by law enforcement, and they write her a ticket for 83 and a 75, and they give her an envelope with a return address on it, with which she's supposed to include, and this is in November, a $25 Walmart gift card to get out of her sentence for her speeding ticket. So, because it's a cheap way out, we're like, okay, whatever. It's a little shady.
This is
cool.
Awesome.
So we fill out this, go get a Walmart gift card, put it in there, and we send it in. Gets returned to sender. I take it to the post office, check the postage. Postmaster says, no, it's good. We send it in again, and it gets returned a second time. Well, she gets a call yesterday saying she has a warrant for $700. Have you guys heard of this going on anywhere else?
I've heard of similar, but not exactly. It was up in Pennsylvania. It was in Pennsylvania.
Hello?
There was a policeman that was essentially in the same way extorting money from folks for a playground for the town, and he said, if you would send me a check for $125, I won't give you the speeding ticket. And the Pennsylvania State Police hammered down on him. So I don't know what you guys have on this original encounter, but this, if you guys would now, when did she find out that if she should put this $25 gift card in there at the time of the ticket or at a later date?
Are you guys there?
Yeah, can you hear us, Mark?
Yeah, apparently he can't hear us.
Yeah, I think it sounds like his drop. That's Mark Thompson.
I can hear you intermittently.
Intermittently.
I heard you say that.
You want to go? I don't know what's going on with Mark's connection. Whenever he's sitting here, Wednesday nights, it was fine. So
I think he had to call in on the actual phone line. So
I didn't even know people still use those things. So wow, it's this is a good case.
I am on the phone line.
Are you? When did she?
Skype.
Yeah. When did you find out that? When did the whole $25 gift card thing come to be? That idea. Did he tell her that in person, or? All right, Mark's done. Poor guy. Yeah, but I don't know. I'd like to know some more details. Maybe on Saturday night on their show, he'll kind of talk about it. I'm sure after the show we can hit him up and talk to him about what's going on. But is it uncommon? Have you guys heard of anything like this before?
I haven't. That would be a new one to me.
I heard of something like that around my neck of the woods over here, where people are sending out things that were supposedly from the city to try to collect money from individuals regarding their tickets that they had no idea that he'd gotten because they weren't real.
That could be too, because a lot of the police reports and whatnot are all public record. Somebody could have taken and made it look like legit or something. Who knows? I don't know. We'll have to maybe we'll talk to maybe he'll bring it up on the show on Saturday, or we can talk to him next week, or if he can, probably next week.
Yeah, I mean that's Mark with Line of Fire, he'll call in. He called into Anthony's show. I think that he just missed being on the radio on Wednesday nights.
Yeah, go figure.
So,
I mean, does he really want to stay up to like what they record to, like 12:30 at night?
Yeah, they were doing the after the show until like 12:30. It's like, man, you guys. I mean, that's different because Mark actually he's in Texas. He was broadcasting out of Texas, so it wasn't too big of a deal for him.
Oh yeah. So yeah.
now he's calling us names on the chat.
Uh-oh. That's not cool.
Bro, do you even guns?
Who has guns?
I said, does he even guns? She has a warrant. Right. I don't know. Apparently she's got a warrant, so we'll find out about that, hopefully. Hopefully they do something. Don't go to jail.
All right. So after the break, we actually have Antonio Bueller from Peaceful Streets Project. So stay tuned for that. You're listening to Cop Block Radio on FPRN.
Yo, she needs that dirty money. Late night sessions, midnight confession.
Mr. President, members of Congress, you've been making a lot of noise about taking our guns away. But you might want to review history. 1835, Gonzales, Texas territory. The authorities wanted to confiscate the big gun that protected that colony. You know what the people said? Come and take it. Because they were willing to fight for their freedom and their guns. So are we.
Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but I warn you, you'll have to pry it from my cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it.
One shot at a time. Just like Gonzales, we're keeping our guns.
Hello, fellow patriots. This is Joseph Nazari, Director of Training Operations with Line of Fire, LLC, Professional Firearms Training Group, located in Las Vegas, Nevada. The fact that you're listening to this show is evidence to me that you are a true patriot and you do value your freedoms. As all patriots know, with freedom comes responsibility, and if you own a firearm, training should be an integral part of your personal defense profile. If you're considering quality firearms training, Line of Fire LLC should be your first choice. We teach all types of firearms training for all types of individuals, from the novice to the most advanced shooters. At Line of Fire LLC, we have a course for you. Please, feel free to call us today at 702-242-8288. We look forward to speaking with you soon. Once again, that's Line of Fire LLC, 702-242-8288.
In every age, a technology is created that upends the foundations of society. The wheel, the printing press, the internet. Now, in a world sliding into financial chaos, a new technology is changing the way monetary systems work around the world. It is called Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a new form of money, controlled not by banks, governments, or corporations, but through mutual commerce between free individuals. To learn more, visit weusecoins.com.
Talk about a wake-up call. I was paying for all the doctor's visits, insurance premiums, and medical costs out of pocket. All these expenses were keeping me from living the carefree lifestyle that I wanted. Then the government told me about Obamacare. Now with Obamacare, I don't worry about my health care. I eat whatever I want, whenever I want. I get all my prescription drugs for free, and there's no more coverage gap. I no longer need to worry about pre-existing conditions. We can see any doctor whenever we want for any reason, and so can everyone else.
Obamacare is not for everyone, like Congressman. If you are already healthy, do not use Obamacare, as you will see your premiums go up. If you are a sick person, do not use Obamacare, as you will see your premiums go up. Many people on Obamacare may experience longer wait times and fewer doctors, and denial of your treatment of choice. If you are faced with a healthcare situation, you may be denied treatment through government rationing.
Obamacare even covers my kids up to age 26.
If you experience a recession lasting more than 4 years, stop taking Obamacare and contact a travel agent to move to the Bahamas or New Zealand.
And the best thing is that Obamacare is free.
Obamacare is not free. Obamacare will increase the national debt by $863 billion in 10 years. Your taxes will go up $569 billion by 2019. If you see a major jump in your premiums, you should opt out of Obamacare immediately. Opting out of Obamacare is illegal and will incur major fines and penalties unless you are a union member who received a special waiver from the Obama administration. Obama is not responsible for the negative effects on the economy, your pocketbook, your freedoms, or your health.
Obama solved all my problems.
Obamacare. Live your carefree lifestyle.
You have reached the 911 emergency service. All operators are busy.
Oh God, please help me. He's got a knife.
You have reached the 911 emergency service. All operators are busy. Stay on the line for the next available emergency operator. You have reached the 911 emergency service. All operators are busy. Please stay on.
911 operator, what's your emergency, please? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Last year in the United States, thousands and thousands of 911 calls went unanswered. And if you call from a cell phone, there's no way to pinpoint where you are. Yet politicians like Dianne Feinstein call for more gun control. We have one question. Why do these politicians have armed bodyguards? Can't they just call 911?
All right, you are listening to the Cop Block Radio Show on FPRN and hopefully syndicated across the interwebs. I'm Eric, and tonight with me I have Adam and Scott. And now we should have on the line our special guest, Antonio Bueller from Peaceful Streets Project.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Right. How you doing tonight, Antonio?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. So, why don't we bring you in with kind of who you are, what you do, kind of inform everybody so if they don't know who you are.
Yeah, so I am one of the founders of the Peaceful Streets Project. The Peaceful Streets Project was founded in the spring of 2012, a little bit over a year ago, in response to my arrest on New Year's Day 2012, where I saw two cops assaulting a woman. And I tried to take pictures, and I tried to tell the cops to stop it. And then they came after me, filed felony charges against me. And fortunately for me, people rallied to my defense, and there was video that proved that the cops lied and that the cops committed crimes. But we still had to fight the charges, and I'm still fighting charges still today, over a year and a half later. But with all the support that we had, we decided to launch the Peaceful Streets Project to try to change the culture within society, to build upon a lot of the great work that other police accountability groups have done, such as CopBlock.org and CopWatch, but to try to take the support that we had and encourage people to stand up for their rights, flex their rights, stand up for one another, and take the offensive against criminal cops in a peaceful way, but in a way that would ultimately change the way the average person thinks about the institution of law enforcement, so that we can help prevent other people from being victimized in the future.
So now, was that the main event that really got you going on starting Peaceful Streets, or?
Yeah, I was a pretty active liberty activist beforehand, but most of my focus had been on the wars, education, homeschooling type stuff, and a lot of other federal issues, privacy, the Ron Paul stuff, the Federal Reserve. But then when this thing happened on New Year's Day, that sort of really shook me, and I came to realize really quickly that while a lot of these other things are really bad, and our government is often doing very, very bad, terrible stuff, the fact of the matter is that the greatest threat to liberty that any of us face, most of us face on a day-to-day basis, is actually from our local law enforcement agencies.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree with that. Now, I know a lot of people came familiar with you on the incident where you were arrested after you told an officer to fuck off or fuck you, whichever one it was. I know that video got pretty crazy. I know I seen that all over the internet. Do you want to touch base on that story at all, really quick?
You mean the recent one where they pulled us over because we were following them?
I don't know if it was that one or not. It was.
Yeah, so the New Year's Day case, I wasn't telling them to go F themselves or anything. I was just telling them to stop hurting this woman, and then they came after me. And once he started pushing me, I was using the F word, but I was basically saying, "What the F are you doing? You know, who the F do you think you are?" Stuff like that. But I did get a disorderly conduct charge for telling a cop to go F himself in Gonzales, Texas. And I actually took that to trial recently. It was a 7-hour trial. I lost. I got assessed a $1 fine, and we are going to appeal that. That just happened last week. And then the video that you may be talking about was when we were illegally detained because we were out filming cops, and they pulled us over, and they forced me out of the car. They searched me, and then I just went off on them, calling them out for being coward cops and for trampling upon my rights.
Right, I think we had touched base a little bit on that earlier in the show with the talking respectful to police officers and where that gets you when you don't most of the time. Because they tend to have an ego that tends to erupt when you talk foully to them.
Yeah, and that's something that we actually talk about a lot within the Peaceful Streets Project. We try to get people to think beforehand about what they're going to do when they have an interaction with the police. And a big part of that is what your station in life is, and whether or not you want to be an activist, someone who really stands up for their rights, or you just want to survive the encounter and go along your way. And for people who are willing to be activists and people who are willing to take on the personal risk of standing up to the cops, I do encourage them not to be respectful and not to show deference to the police, at least to the point where they're not risking their life. Because I think that a big part of the problem that we have in our society is that everyone's told that we have to respect authority, that we have to respect the police, we have to respect teachers, we have to respect politicians, and they are oftentimes the people who deserve the least respect in society. And by getting people to show them disrespect and only respecting people who earn it, then hopefully we can break down that sort of pedestal that they're standing on.
Yeah, I know. And we chatted a little bit before the show. What was you said you wanted to talk about culture change? What you want to touch base on that?
Yeah, it's when we were trying to figure out how we were going to go about fighting police abuse, it's such a big problem, and it's something that people have been fighting for generations, and and we haven't seen a lot of success. And a lot of people have been trying to work within the system. They've been trying to get police, the good police, the so-called good police, to stand up and do the right thing. Oath Keepers does some pretty admirable work, trying to make that happen. You have a lot of people working on legislation and whatnot, and it just doesn't seem like any of that stuff has really done much. There's been gains in some places, but you look at the police today compared to the police 40 years ago, and now they're militarized. Now they have the ability to do all kinds of unconstitutional acts. We have so many people in prison for victimless crimes. They kill people all the time and get away with it. And I don't know that we've actually made that much progress in the past 40 years. We may have actually gone backward. And so we wanted to go ahead and focus not on the political institutions, not on trying to get the so-called good cops to come out and start sticking up, for us and standing up to the bad cops, but we decided that we're just going to focus on the average American, the average person who's going to come into contact with these police, and just break down this notion that they're honorable, noble, good people who are just doing their job every day, and that they're protecting and serving, and highlight the fact that they are the most dangerous threat to most people. They are the ones who are the biggest threat to our liberties. They are the only ones who can literally get away with theft and murder on a day-to-day basis, and hopefully get the people, just like the jury nullification effort, get people who go into jury rooms to stop believing what the cops say, and start demanding that the cops actually and the prosecutors actually provide legitimate evidence, and no longer just automatically take the word of a cop because he happens to have a badge and a gun. And I think that the stuff that CopBlock has been doing is amazing in that regard, and we wanted to go ahead and build on that and try to really attack the veneer, the image of law enforcement, so that people stop joining it, people stop respecting it, and people start standing up for one another when people are being victimized.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. We had a question come out of the comments on the chat here. Janelle asks, at what time did Antonio start to notice a drastic change in the military police state, apart from your arrest?
Yeah, to be quite honest, I never really focused on police abuse before I got arrested. I had been a fan of the Innocence Project, and they're a great organization. They actually work really hard to help exonerate innocent people who've been convicted of capital crimes through DNA evidence, and I believe, exonerated over 300 people now, including people who were on death row, and they've done, some people posthumously, but so I've known that there's corruption, that there's misconduct, and that people have had their lives destroyed. But my focus has been primarily on education and federal level stuff, and so I really wasn't paying attention to the whole police abuse thing. But now, after the fact, and I think that this is a common theme because I've talked to other victims of police abuse, and they say they've gone through the exact same thing. Once you become the victim, once the state uses the police and all their resources against you to try to destroy your life, you tend to spend a lot of time, especially in those early months, doing nothing but watching police abuse videos, reading articles, and it's a pretty dark place, and you really do get sucked in, and it's a lot of negativity. I was so fortunate that I had an entire community who rallied behind me, and I had an outlet for what I was trying to do through the Peaceful Streets Project, and I had the blessings of having someone videotape what happened to me, and I have my resume, which gave me credibility. But most people who get derailed or who get screwed over by the police, they're alone. They don't have video. It's their word against the cops. Oftentimes they might have a prior, and I can only imagine how hard it is for them because they have no other option but to hole up, because they don't have the outlet that I had, the media outlet, the ability to tell my story. So I was really lucky, but at the same time, I did spend an awful lot of time reading, researching, and it was pretty dark, and it was not very long for me to come to the realization, that the police today are sort of the occupying force, the standing army, the occupying force that, so many people have warned about throughout history.
Yeah, no, I fully agree there too. I just lost my train of thought. Eric or Scott, you got any questions real quick?
Yeah, I just want to say something real quick. I don't think that it was mentioned, and I think that it was, your original arrest. Someone was videoing from across the street, and you were taking photos. And can you confirm? Like, it sounded like you put an ad out on Craigslist or something. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So when I got arrested, I was really distraught because I didn't know what direction my life was going to go in, because I knew that I was being charged with a felony, and I had no other information. I just had to sit in jail for 16 hours just thinking about it. And thank God I got out on a bond. I can only imagine how bad it is for people who can't like pay a bond or can't get out on a PR bond. But as soon as I got out of jail, my buddy who I was with, who fortunately did not get arrested, he said right away, he's like, dude, I'm so glad you got out. You know, there were witnesses there. I was like, awesome. Who are they? He's like, I don't know. The cops wouldn't let me talk to them. But we knew that there were witnesses. You know, one was very vocal about the fact that the cops had done something wrong. He was across the street. And one actually walked up to my friend to give him her business card. And the cops prevented that. So we knew that there were people out there who saw it. So then we went ahead, started postering, you know, putting up flyers around town, especially around that area, posted on Facebook and Twitter, and we posted on Craigslist. And fortunately, 3 witnesses stepped forward just from those postings, 2 that were in the parking lot who were really close to what happened, including the woman who walked up and tried to give her business card, and the guy across the street who started yelling after it was all over. He's the one who took the video on his cell phone, which ultimately is what allowed us to get media coverage, because we were able to give that to the media and they ran with it.
Yeah, I mean, it shows how important it is to, you know, just video every encounter. And I know that you guys are huge proponents of, you know, the Peaceful Streets Project. They have so many videos out there of just, you know, every day out there, you know, videoing the police and what they're doing. And it all kind of started off, and I'm so glad that, you know, you guys actually got into contact with those people, and you said it yourself, the police officers were trying to prevent it. You know, they did something wrong and they knew that it was wrong, and they tried to cover it up, which, you know, whenever I heard that you were convicted and it was $1 and that you were gonna appeal it, I was like, hell yeah, man, good for you, you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, that was for the telling the cop to go
Yep.
F himself. The ones from the New Year's, the felony was no billed at the grand jury, and then I picked up 4 misdemeanors, so I still have to work through those, and I have another misdemeanor that's hanging out there, Class B misdemeanor. But going back to the filming aspect, we really encourage people to film cops whenever they have the opportunity. Whenever they're not, if they don't have to be somewhere and they see a cop, just film it. Even if you're from really far away, you don't want to get involved, you don't want to take the risk of getting arrested, but film it, because if you wait until something happens, you miss the most important part. And the guy on New Year's Day pulled out the camera just in time to begin filming when the cop, Patrick Oborski, went out of control. And if he had waited until Patrick Oborski, began pushing me, then he would have missed that very valuable lead up to it, and it wouldn't have been as valuable. So we encourage that, and that's why we have so many videos that are so boring, and we actually videotape encounters where nothing ever happened. But that's cool with us.
Yeah, we don't want anything to happen. We want the boring stuff. You know, the other stuff is more exciting, but you know, it's people's lives and people being kidnapped. So we like the boring stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And boring videos are great stuff. It just shows that they're behaving properly.
Yeah, or at least not really poorly.
Now, Antonio, you said you had an upcoming event going on that you wanted to talk about.
Oh, we have the 2nd annual Peaceful Streets Police Accountability Summit. Last year's summit was a huge success. We had several hundred people show up. We gave out 100 video cameras. It was primarily people in the Central Texas area, but Clyde Freeman came in from Innocent Down. Pete Eyre came in from CopBlock.org. We had people come in from all over. It was a really great event. It was only a couple months after we launched Peaceful Streets, but this year it's going to be even bigger. We have potentially some really big keynote speakers that are going to speak. It's going to be on August 17th here in Austin, Texas. We are expecting, last year we had a few hundred. This year we're expecting 1,000 or more participants. And we're really lucky in that a lot of people across the country have launched their own chapters. And some of them are really nascent, you know, just getting going, just doing the most basic stuff to get launched. And then some of them are already veterans, like Sandusky, Ohio, which is, they just blow my mind with the stuff that they accomplish, you know, on a week-to-week basis, you know, putting out videos, doing Know Your Rights trainings. Houston is similar, you know, they're very proactive. But we're going to hopefully get all the chapters from Peaceful Streets across the country, and hopefully a lot of the Cop Block chapters will join in as well to come in for the conference. And I could see over 1,000 people, and if we get the keynote speakers that we're looking for, it might be several thousand who show up. So I just like to encourage people to mark it August 17th on their calendar, come to Austin, Texas, because it's going to be a pretty great event, a very empowering event for people who have been victimized, and for people who want to stand up to the thuggish, out-of-control cops that seem to plague pretty much every neighborhood and every community in this country.
No, that's awesome. You guys are doing that. Thanks for letting everybody know about that event. So make sure you guys check that out and see you guys can go. Eric and Scott, you guys got anything more?
Yeah. When we talked to the guys in Sandusky a couple weeks ago for our interview series, they were telling us about, I don't know if it was you guys who were doing it, but you would, or they would, be outside of the jail when people were let out to kind of help them get on their way. Was that you guys?
Yeah, that's right. It started in Austin, and hopefully everyone starts doing it. Peaceful Streets and other organizations as well. We call it the Police Abuse Complaint Department, and the primary focus of it initially was to be there to document stories of abuse. So when people are going into court or coming out of jail, because in Austin they're right next to each other, we simply ask them, have you been a victim of police abuse or police misconduct? Would you like to share your story? And if they do, then we can go ahead and upload that right to YouTube. And we think that's important because whenever something happens, the cops put out their version of events and the media runs with it, and the victims never have an opportunity to share their story. So we wanted to go ahead and give them an opportunity to share their story, give them a platform. And the more stories we get, the more that we share, the more people will start looking to the videos to see this. And then two is, a lot of people think that the only people who are victimized are the thugs, the people who lead criminal lives, the people who live in the really bad neighborhoods. And we want to show people that no, it's everyday people that are getting victimized. This could be your brother or your daughter or your wife, your girlfriend, your father who's having their lives destroyed. And you're not, just because you're a middle class, white person living in a good part of town, that you're not protected from police abuse. And so we wanted to go ahead and get that out there. And then one of the things that we quickly found was that people coming out of jail, it's just a really crappy experience. A lot of them don't have their cars because it's impounded. Their phone's dead. It might be the middle of the night. There's no taxis around. They might be from out of town, especially in Austin, because we have the entertainment district. And so we would also give out cigarettes, water. We'd allow them to use our phones. And on occasion, we would actually give them rides to the impound lot or elsewhere so that they could go ahead and get back on their feet.
No, that's awesome. You guys did that. I remember talking with the guys from Sandusky about that, and that was great.
The Sandusky, I just gotta say, the Sandusky people are just awesome. They just kick butt, and they actually have forced Peaceful Streets Project Austin to step it up a little, because they've just been kicking butt so well. Houston also has at times done stuff where the people in Austin have been like, oh crap, like we need to step it up. They just didn't know your rights training. How come we haven't done one lately? So that's good. And I think that that's really powerful. I think that there's a lot of pressure that we can put on each other throughout the country. All the Peaceful Streets chapters and all the cop blocks and all the other unaffiliated movements throughout the country. Like I know there's one in Milwaukee, there's some in New York and Los Angeles. And the more activism that we do, the more publicity that we create, the buzz that we generate, I think that will help the other organizations and the other chapters realize, okay, there's more I can do. There's people being victimized every single day. I think that we can put a little bit more effort into it. And then when we have an entire nation, an entire network of organizations throughout the nation who are consistently applying this pressure to the police and exposing them for what they are, then I think that's when we will have that culture change, when we will get people who are going into juries to go in, with the prejudice in their mind that cops lie. They do it all the time, and there's a really good chance that this person may be getting stonewalled. So I'm going to be really, really critical of police testimony as I'm looking at this trial.
Okay, so we got to go to break. Thanks a lot for Antonio for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Antonio.
Stay tuned. Yeah, next we have Pete Eyre, co-founder of CopBlock. So stick around for that. You're listening to the CopBlock Radio Show on FPRN.
Violent society, if every citizen was armed, no one would be dumb enough to shoot people. It's exactly the ethos our founding fathers had when they wrote the Constitution and then changed it, which is what makes it sacred now. Come mingle with safety-minded people like you at the Liberty City Gun Club. Our nation is still the world leader in one thing: armaments. Nothing says excitement like a night out with a small caliber semi-automatic weapon. Get social at the Liberty City Gun Club.
Well, yeah, it's getting tough out there. Yeah, no doubt. I work in home invasions, mostly. Some murder, occasional rape, if she's hot, or really bitchy. And I'm a huge advocate of gun control, absolutely. Every time I kick in a door or smash a window, I face the possibility of being shot and killed. Allowing citizens to own guns creates a hostile work environment for me and my associates. No one should have to work under those conditions. I say make them all illegal, absolutely. I mean, I break the law for a living. I'm a professional, so it doesn't really bother me. No doubt. No doubt.
Your local violent criminals work hard and put their lives on the line every time they attempt to murder, rape, abduct, or assault a member of the citizenry. They desperately need your help. With your support, there may finally come a day when a violent criminal can have his way with you or someone you love without the fear, anxiety, and stress caused by knowing there's a possibility his victim might be armed. Please show your support by voting for stronger anti-gun legislation, because criminals prefer unarmed citizens.
All operators are busy. Oh God, please help me. He's got a knife. You have reached the 911 emergency service. All operators are busy. Please stay on the line for the next available emergency operator. You have reached the 911 emergency service. All operators are busy. Please stay on.
911 operator, what's your emergency, please? Hello? Hello?
Last year in the United States, thousands and thousands of 911 calls went unanswered. And if you call from a cell phone, there's no way to pinpoint where you are. Yet politicians like Dianne Feinstein call for more gun control. We have one question. Why do these politicians have armed bodyguards? Can't they just call 911?
Do you have a group or organization founded on the principles of personal liberty, health freedom, or accountable government? We invite you to check out Same Side Entertainment. Same Side is a source for activists and liberty organizations to connect with well-known leaders in today's growing movement for sustainable living, personal liberty, and sovereignty issues. Same Side has a variety of keynote speakers, debate panels, interactive web presentations, musicians, and liberty-based entertainment, as well as services for web design, graphic design, video, and photography. Same Side can help customize your event by connecting you to the best of the liberty and political world while staying within your budget. Get connected with leaders in the liberty movement like Tom Woods, Kevin Gutzman, Jack Hunter, Robert Scott Bell, Bob Murphy, Michael Scheuer, John Bush, Jordan Page, Tatiana Moroz, and many more. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and our website at www.samesideentertainment.com. Again, that's www.samesideentertainment.com. Same Side Entertainment, connecting you with the education and resources you need.
Hi, I'm Chuck Norris, a black belt patriot. If some thug breaks into my home, I could use my roundhouse kick, but I'd prefer he look down the barrel of my gun. And millions of other law-abiding also rely right to keep and bear arms. Some politicians say they support your rights, but unfortunately, their voting records say otherwise. Protect your rights on Election Day. Check the candidates' records and see who stood up for your families and who protected the criminals. I'm Chuck Norris, and I approve this message.
Just let them try and outlaw those guns.
And we are back on the Cop Block Radio Show. I didn't know where I was going with that. Yeah, we're on FPRN, I guess. So I'm Eric, and tonight I have with me Adam and Scott, and we should have our last guest of the evening, Pete Ayer, who is the co-founder of CopBlock.
Pete, are you out there?
Yep, good to be with you guys.
Hey, man, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate you, taking some time. It sounds like you're on the phone, I think. You're, away from the computer, hopefully out in the middle of the woods somewhere doing something fun.
Pretty much. I'm about an hour north of Keene at a 210-acre property called Bardo Farm. It's kind of a working animal farm. I've spent half of April and half of May here. I just got back up here a couple hours ago.
Oh, man, that's awesome. It's... the conversations of, making the trip up next week to New Hampshire to, meet up with a couple of you guys have, been happening, and it just seems like, we got to do it. But, since you did take some time out, why don't you, most of our listeners obviously know who you are. Give us the down and dirty quick 5 minutes on, who you are, where you come from, and, what you're trying to accomplish through, the birth of CopBlock.org and what it's become, man.
Yeah, right on. I guess, my background is I'm from the Midwest. Right now I'm 32. I'm from the Midwest originally. Went to school for law enforcement, and eventually, through random turns of, life, you could call it, I ended up, in D.C. in the think tank world, and then left that with my buddy Jason Talley, and he and I started a project called Motorhome Diaries, which had us crisscrossing the United States in an RV. We said we were, essentially just pointing cameras at people we thought advancing the liberty movement. So just doing a bunch of interviews for a while. And about a month into that, our buddy, someone yet unknown to us named Adam Miller, who most folks know as a demo, reached out and said he'd heard about us, wanted to join us. So we scooped him up and, did the rest of Motorhome Diaries that year. And then the following year, myself and a demo went out under the banner Liberty on Tour, and we said we were advancing the voluntary society. So we tried to connect with complete liberty folks around the states, and again, just shoot a bunch of videos and either capture or help spearhead some activism and outreach in different towns we passed through. And from both of those journeys, we were able to meet and connect with a lot of really good people that today, some of whom are founders of CopBlock groups and whatnot. So it has really paid dividends, and a lot of those, real good people I've continued to stay in contact with. So in between those two projects, Motorhome Diaries and Liberty on Tour, in early 2010, in January, a demo started CopBlock when he was in southeast Wisconsin there. So myself and some other students started collaborating there, and essentially just grew the site from to a group blog and then to a sort of a decentralized project. And where it's at now is, we get more traffic to CopBlock in a day than we would get in a month to our old project sites. So it's clear to me that the issue of police accountability is very timely, and so it's one that I seek to try to inject a message of, again, complete liberty, that just reminding folks that, hey, individuals act and they're responsible for their actions no matter where they work. So I'm really, and it's a decentralized project, so I'm really excited to see, the CopBlock Radio Show and you guys step up, and other people that we've been fortunate to connect with and collaborate with. I listened to the tail end of Antonio's segment there, and he's right on about just people connecting and working together. And so, I don't know, for me, where I'm at, I want to live in a community free from institutionalized violence. I still recognize there might be some bad people here or there, but I think they could, with the proper incentives, those kind of things would not be as far-reaching as today. And I would say even today they might not be as people might not have as much to fear as is peddled, except for maybe the folks who claim to protect them and claim a right to steal their money to do that. I mean, that's really the biggest threat a lot of folks have these days. So for me, CopBlock is just a place to share information, to try to strike the roots, to provide some resources, and just act as a hub to connect people where we can support each other and give people an outlet to share what happened to them, and again, just hold individuals accountable, not just say, the NYPD did this to me, but say Joe Smith from NYPD did this, and then, go from there.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously that's how this whole radio show got started. I think that I actually sent you an email and I was like, hey, is anybody doing something like this? And you were like, yeah, these guys, Adam and Eric, are already on par for that. So that's how it kind of you guys have been the hub to just bring so many different people in different parts of the country together. So you guys, I thank you guys for what you were doing, 5 years ago and your journey to a better society. So you guys have been, highly influential on so many people. Like, how have you seen things change, as this message spreads and you guys get to meet new people? It just seems like things have changed so drastically. And, is there anything out there that you see as like, this is a great avenue of change, and this is a great way to approach people or to spread the word?
Yeah, I really do. I really think whether it's CopWatch, Peaceful Streets, some other, sort of allied organizations or, individuals working towards similar goals, I would say, I have definitely seen a lot more of that today. I don't even know how many groups are listed on the groups page at copblock.org. There's over 100 for sure. But I think, and they're active to greater or lesser extent. But I mean, back in the day, I remember when I first got introduced to the term agorism. I was at a pork fest up here in New Hampshire, and this year's the 10th pork fest. So I look forward to meeting a lot of people up there again. But so just being introduced to concepts and ideas, I know for myself really helped me become a better person. Back in the day in high school, for example, I might have picked on some kids or just I definitely have changed as I've gotten older, and I think that's a fair thing for most people to say too. But for me, I definitely credit it to the fact that I do sort of look around and question things, but just being exposed to new ideas. And I really think that goes such a long way, because most of what folks the views that they might hold, the paradigm through which they view the world, is communicated to them, and they incorporate it unthinkingly, because it's all that they've potentially been exposed to through government schools and the media and whatnot. So that's why I think the efforts of yourself and folks that we are fortunate enough to call friends really does have a very big impact. Because ideas have consequences, and that's really all that shapes the world and our interactions and everything. So I view police brutality, there's a lot of groups that have existed for a while. CopWatch, for example, has existed, for some time, but, they tend to just document and maybe share some video with the folks involved. But I think CopBlock goes a little further, because, at least for some of the folks involved, we try to strike the root and say, hey, instead of just documenting this pattern, how can we stop this from happening in the first place? And it's through sharing ideas and empowering people to realize that they own themselves, and that nobody has a right to aggress upon them, no matter where they work, and things like that. So when people start incorporating these ideas and questioning things, then the legitimacy that the police state rests upon will erode, and it can only erode. I think that's the evolution, and I think it's inevitable, especially today with the internet and our ability to just connect with people and bypass these censors. So I have seen a lot of changes. I remember back in the day when I first was exposed to the term voluntarism, and now there's, so many different outlets and individuals self-describing with that label or putting out content sort of aligned with that philosophy, and, people I've never met or even heard of. So it's excellent to see that, these sorts of ideas gain traction, and I'm not surprised that they have.
Yeah, I mean, have you noticed any type of increase, from, it sounds like you guys started out real slow and now it just seems like everything is just like happening so fast. You think that it's just growing exponentially, like that just so many people are kind of, getting their head on straight. Do you see something in that with CopBlock?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, CopBlock's is centralized again, so it's been very interesting seeing the different types of folks who step up and get involved and who start things, and different groups based on who's involved. They might take on different activities, or they might focus in different areas. But yeah, I definitely can't claim to know everything that everybody's doing, and nobody can. So that's. It is an exciting time. I'm glad to be a part of it with everybody.
Yeah, I think it's kind of actually a good thing to hear. It's encouraging that you can say, I don't know everything that's going on. Like it sounds like it's grown so large right now that even you can't keep track of everything. So, now is there anything else that? Go ahead.
If I could just. Oh, I was just going to add, and it is one thing some people have said, hey, that's a risk. CopBlock's decentralized. What if someone, does something and says it was CopBlock? And I mean, I know it's a potential, and whether it's somebody who acts in good faith and they just do something that, I might not do or someone else might not do and rub some people the wrong way, or whether it's, somebody who's purposefully tries to tarnish sort of the aims of people involved with CopBlock, whether they subsist on stolen money or whatever. I realize that something like that might or could happen, and I hope it never does. But if it, I think continually to go back to the point that we're all individuals and we act, and so if something ever were to happen, I really don't even, I don't grant the risk that some people painted as being too evident, because again, we're responsible for our actions, and it should be, if somebody acts, then they're in the wrong. They don't necessarily, like when I'm out if I'm out CopBlock, today I was driving up here to Bardo, and I happened to see a couple road pirates have somebody stop, so I pulled over and I was filming, and one of the police employees came up to me later and he said, hey, I was explaining to the guy who you were and what you guys are about, because he was familiar with CopBlock. And and we had a short conversation. I shook his hand at the end because he was like, he had a good demeanor and whatnot. And those kind of interactions, I try to broach. Hey, check out copblock.org/welcome Leos, or try to inform them about some other resources. So I think there's some inroads being had, with the personal conversations people are having. And I know some people who initially get involved with CopBlock sort of bring a F the police sort of attitude, but I don't think that's necessarily productive. I think it will only create further, the erection of walls and this gulf that's seen between us versus them, the thin blue line kind of BS. So I think the more that folks who do want to bring about a better community where we don't fear people who claim to, or I shouldn't say fear, where people who claim to protect us don't make us anxious when we see them, then we could paint a reality to these so-called good cops. We can say, hey, if you work with some heavy-handed or corrupt folks right now, wouldn't you prefer that not to be the case? And, wouldn't you prefer to not be, going after folks for, some people say police have such a difficult job, but if we step back and ask why is that, we see that many of the things that are pointed to as difficulties would not exist but for this coercive institution that doesn't hold its actors accountable. So, if we can paint a different reality, and more than that, if we can start to implement it, then, that's really what's going to bring about a better tomorrow. And earlier this year when I was in Detroit, I was able to interview a guy named Dale Brown who founded the Threat Management Center, and that's sort of what his philosophy is all about. It's couched on love and, like, diffusing situations and not going in there, like, heavy-handed and aggressive as so many police employees are trained to do so today.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we point out, earlier in the show when we were talking about, just kind of a brief synopsis, like, hey, be professional, show, hey, these are, if they're the ones who are in the wrong and they're being aggressive and abusive, you want to show that through the video. You don't want to, kind of incriminate yourself and say, well, this person walked up and they were just, being a jerk. We actually have a caller. If we got about 10 minutes left in the show, but it sounds like Anthony Antonella from Silences Compliance is on the line. Are you with me, Anthony?
Yeah, how you doing, guys?
What's up, brother?
Yes, absolutely. And thanks for taking my call. And I first would like to welcome you to the network. It's awesome to have you guys, doing your thing. I have followed a lot of your work for years, and you touched on so many issues, and I have a lot of stories that I could talk about as well. I gotten tickets in the mail that turned out to be complete frauds, and as soon as I called the city and said, hey, I know there's no way that I could have been ticketed for this, all of a sudden there was a change of attitude, like, oh, it was a mistake. I'm like, well, how do you have all my information if it was a mistake? So it was just a complete scam. Just recently I fought the police in my local area. And I'll tell you, it's not easy when you're not in a big city standing up to cops, because this particular city, I live in an area where a bunch of small towns are kind of like clumped together. And, all these cops know each other. They hang out together. And this particular city, I think, had one full-time cop, and he's the one that I brought to court. And I kept my video camera rolling. I happened to pull into an active police investigation, believe it or not. And what happened was I took it to court. I was going to fight it just on general principle, because when I reviewed the video, the cop lied. He said he pulled me over for one reason. And, make a long story short, and, I was wrong, because the numbers on my stickers, the registration and the inspection, whatever, the status rules that they want me to play by wasn't up to par. So I was wrong with all that. It was a couple days expired. But for the fact that I was able to get the cop to perjure himself in court, and the magistrate seeing this, even after he was willing to still side with the cop, he said, oh, if the cop says it, then that is what it is. He was willing to dismiss all my evidence and just side with the cop because it was the cop's word. But once I was able to say, hey, I'm about to get something on the record that's going to show that this cop is perjuring himself, that's when the magistrate's like, all right, I heard enough, and basically threw it out and got rid of everything. But I've seen so much injustice in my lifetime, and I'm tired of people thinking it's okay to grant authority to so many other humans. They're just other people, and they say, oh, we follow the rules and it's our job. But this is not I didn't sign up for this. I do not want to live in a society where so many people have so much power to ruin my life, possibly have my daughter taken away from me. And I see the reason I do it is because I understand that most people don't realize it until it's too late, and then they're begging for people to help them. Well, I know the power of the state, and I disagree with it, and that's why I fight it on every level I can. And I certainly appreciate an organization like you guys. It's in my opinion, it's kind of like an umbrella organization, kind of like We Are Change, only from a different angle. You just have people that agree with the idea. It seems like an idea of trying to stand up as individuals and say, we're not going to let the police just railroad us because they're tricking people into
absolutely,
believing
man.
that
I think
they have all this authority.
I think we can all kind of, everybody's just everybody's gotten to the point where they just can't, people just can't take it anymore, and they're just, they're getting to the point where they're trying to, fight back and show the hypocrisy and what's going on. Do you have any, Anthony, do you have any questions for Pete? We still got him on the line.
No, I just like to say, great job to all you guys, and it's good because we're all fighting it. And you said earlier that somebody said, you can't keep up with everything. None of us can keep up with everything. So that's why we all have our niches. We all have things that we might be a little bit more passionate about than others, but we are all on the same team as far as trying to create some kind of voluntary society, freedom, liberty, something even close to that, because as of right now, I mean, you don't get much further than that. I mean, this is just we're extorted on a daily basis. And I mean, I could go on for an hour, and it's your show. I don't want to do that, but you guys are doing a great job, and I hope that
right on, brother.
You continue to do and inspire people, and get people to stand up to these costumes. Just stand up to them and don't be afraid of them, because they're just people just like you and me. And yeah, you might get tasered, shot, and killed, but at least you're standing on principle. And that's
we're trying not to, man.
That's where I'm
that's the
coming
goal,
from.
not to.
Yeah.
No, I agree with
That's
you.
one
I'm
of
just
our-
saying that. I mean, go ahead.
All right, man. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Anthony. Take care, man.
All right, guys. Hey, have a good night.
Yep, you too. All right,
it's kind
Pete.
of one of those things that the goal is to not have to exist anymore. It's kind
Yeah,
of,
we're trying to make you, we're trying to make you invalid. So, Pete, what else do you have for us? Is there anything that we should be, looking for specifically? I know that you guys, you did a tour and you came through, Maryland, Pennsylvania, all the way up. I think you're headed to either up to New Hampshire or something like that. Are you guys going to do anything similar like that in the future, where folks that aren't necessarily on the East Coast can come out and talk and meet with you?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see where funds are and where demand is and whatnot. I mean, I do have some thoughts about potentially going out and doing some coverage of folks that have been wronged, or but ultimately I just want to try to strike the root. And like was just mentioned, it's good not to just automatically pay and not to just roll over when a ransom's issued or things like that. But I also think it's important, just a little point of distinction to make from the previous comment about the state has all this power. I mean, I think, if we view these things as a battle and a fight with us and the state or the government, it might seem sort of like impossible. But if we recognize that the state or the government is just an association of people, and they just are operating what I would say according to a bad idea that says coercion is okay for those folks, if you recognize that, I mean, there's millions of people that work for this entity, and so probably some of us listening or involved with this call right now have, friends or family that are involved, whether they're, a military person or a police employee or a teacher, whatever. But I think it's important to try to have conversations with people, because, one mind at a time, it makes a difference. And if people sort of withdraw their consent and start trying to live more, through consensual interactions across the board, then we can, these issues of police brutality will evaporate as well.
Yeah, it sounds like it's kind of blowing up in the chat that people are wanting to know this, if you're gonna do something like Liberty on Tour again. It sounds like everybody wants to get together and meet up with you. So that could be an idea that you guys might want to kick around again.
Cool. I appreciate the heads up.
Hey man, we appreciate everything you've done, Pete. You are you're light years ahead of where I'm at in my journey to my own personal freedom. So thank you for coming on the show tonight, and hopefully, when's the next time you're gonna be doing? Are you gonna be doing any speaking next week up at PorkFest?
Yeah, I'm gonna do a workout on Monday, and then Tuesday I have a panel with John Bush, Alma Summer, and Lori Roeder. It's called Getting From Here to There, and it's just talking about our own journeys and trying to share stuff with folks, and just And then on Wednesday, there's a 2-hour session with myself, Ademo, Jacob Crawford from Cop Watch, and Antonio Bueller from Peaceful Streets. And we're going to show some videos and essentially, just try to have an open conversation with a lot of people present. So I'm really looking forward to that. We'll obviously be capturing some video, and I'll put that up on CopBlock after PorkFest. But, after that, I mean, there's the Keenvention that's in early November in Keene, New Hampshire, and there's an event in Saratoga a friend just invited me to. It's like a peace sort of conference thing. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'll be floating around, and I'll definitely be posting stuff when that happens.
Awesome, man. Pete, thank you so much again. We appreciate everything you're doing. Keep going, man. You're doing the right thing, and you're helping to influence people and change people's minds and get people opted out of everything here.
Yeah, I appreciate what you guys are up to, and I'm just one guy, but if I can be a help for whatever, my email's pete@copblock.org, and I'll do what I can. I really want to get groups going and just decentralize things and create resources. So if there's anything you think that could be created that would be of use for folks, I'm definitely open to hear.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much, Pete.
So that's all the time we have tonight. So if you want to check out him, you can find him over at CopBlock.org, or Antonio Bueller you can find over at PeacefulStreetProject.com, or Garrett over at FreeKeen.com. So until next week at 9:30 p.m. on Wednesday, and be sure to check out Line of Fire on Saturday at 6. Until then, remember that badges don't grant extra rights.